Oh, we got some really cool information today. A developer basically coming out and talking about a bunch of... Oh, hang on. What's up? Oh, look at a little dog face nose. It's an adorable GIF, but just... Where do they even make that? Hey, who's Colt? Are you Colt? Colt? Hey, hang on. What? Huh? Oh. We're frauds. We're frauds. I don't know I don't know how to handle this. I mean, I've never been a fraud. What I do, I call a doctor. Oh man, I just love messages from people that don't actually watch the content and have this big grandiose opinion about, everything that they don't know. So again, welcome to another video from me. I was told that my original intro is getting old, so I'm going to try something different for one video because I'll forget on the next one. Nah, fuck that. Hey, what's going on, guys? Dealer back again with yet another video talking about a developer speaking on next generation hardware and if it's really held back. There are some really cool things in here that you guys may want to hear. We've spoken about this on RDX podcast. And again, if you've already listened to that and you're still going to watch this, I really appreciate it. It really helps. It really does a lot. For those that don't know about this, you might want to grab maybe, I don't know, some popcorn or some Funyuns. Depends on how healthy, what kind of lifestyle you're really living. My point is that we got some really, really interesting information regarding Xbox Series X, its performance, the tools, quote unquote, that many just moronic people were really kind of throwing shade at people like myself for breaking or helping break this information 5 months ago. They were seeing damage control. They were seeing lies. They were seeing their own inability to do any research whatsoever or know anything about anything regarding the consoles, the technology, the developers. They basically proved that they don't have any accurate information, and some even talked about it in their own content. Thank you for publicly outing yourself as people that don't know anything. And it's not about being wrong or right. It's about, hey, as somebody who's had to take a little bit of crap over the last 5 months for this exact thing that a developer is going to confirm right here. Yeah, and it turns out to be true. You think these people would learn. And yeah, we're going to cover the Series S comments as well. But hey, if you end up liking this video, maybe hit the like button, show it to a buddy or two. We're almost up to 100K. Thank you very much. Let's get into it.
So tell us about porting Control to next-gen consoles. Obviously, you shipped on last gen in 2019. Then when you came to work on the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions, what sort of challenges and new opportunities did those provide?
Great question. Well, the challenge is that whenever you're in this cross-generational point, to be blunt, it sucks. You gotta support the previous gen, make sure that syncs. I mean, the games that will come out, the stuff we're working on, like the visual bar, you're gonna be blown away.
Now again, I'll tackle Series S later in the video, but I just gotta say it right now, this statement right here, talking about the visuals they're currently working on for the future regarding these consoles and how they'll blow your mind. Well, yeah, remember that when you're talking about Series S and now it's holding everything back. So yeah, more on that in a minute. But right now he's talking about what it took to get the game up and running on these new systems and what they really wanted to have.
60 frames, gotta have that.
Amen.
Our platform engineering team needs to ensure that all the features, that there's parity.
Now, he did not elaborate on this parity, but I can only imagine that he's talking about visual parity between the platforms. Now, keep in mind that this game actually did have identical settings and resolution across the board when it comes to the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Digital Foundry confirmed this, as I've covered before. However, what was not parodied was the, that little uncapped frame rate in that photo mode that revealed already a performance delta growing with some of the optimizations they've made on the software side and the dev kits. Go Team Xbox, right? Yeah, I want more performance for my money, and this thing should be performing better. We'll get into why that is going to be the case, as this developer confirms here in a second. Yes, he does confirm that the tools have issues.
Control running on next-gen systems, on the new engine, it takes several months just to get everything working. Like, nothing works at first. Like, the content looks wrong, the textures look wrong, the lighting is busted, because we've made all of these improvements, but then they're incompatible. So it just took quite a while to get to that level where, okay, we have everything working that we had in the previous gen version. Now we can actually start doing all that cool next gen stuff. There's always far more features and things we want to do than we actually have bandwidth, and that's just the reality of, well, not just games, but in many other things.
Here's him just confirming what so many people do not think about. Teams are of differing sizes, resources, and they just don't have the bandwidth, as he said, to get the most out of all this different hardware. We're going to go into least common denominators and what's really holding things back here in a second, but ultimately, it comes down to their ability to get that performance out of hardware, and if they got the resources or do not have the resources to do so, is a massive factor. This is one of the many things I've been talking about for quite some time. But anyways, this is what he has to say about getting performance out of both PS5 and the Xbox Series X, and yes, both consoles will get more over time, and he does say that. Just want to be crystal clear on that. However, when it comes to Xbox Series X, it will become even more capable because it does not currently possess all of its current day potential.
Well, now I can say it was fun. It was pretty painful but, to bring Control onto Next Gen, but like all of their software, so it's a bit easier to get the performance on the PS5. And like I said, it's early days, so there's still a lot of just system level issues and bugs that impact performance or cause crashes and things like that. It's just that's all gonna get better. Sony kind of stuck to what worked, and their sort of development software and tools were like pretty stable and good pretty early on. And this is one of the things that people don't really see, like all of these impact like the performance that the consumer gets. And Microsoft opted to change quite a lot of things, which on the long run are probably good, but of course it's just a bigger hurdle for us devs early on to kind of like, we got to rewrite a bunch of different things to really take advantage of specific features. And that's not like a huge negative or anything. It's just what software development is like. But maybe that explains some of the things, like it's just numbers. Like ultimately, like the tools and everything just matters so much more, and how all of that is brought together matters so much more than just purely the numbers.
I'd say it's a given that the problems he just spoke about before speaking on PlayStation's dev kits were really regarding the Xbox, because he just said PlayStations were stable and good from the get-go, meaning the performance problems, the bugs, the crashes, primarily on the Xbox side. Now, as I mentioned on this channel and my podcast, we had heard from developers that the GDK, the game development kit for the Xbox Series consoles, was very, very premature. They did not have very many features, and a lot of that performance was not yet unlocked via drivers, etc. These things are known as the tools, right? And without the tools, you are not going to get performance out of the hardware. How many are laughing now? The tools. But hey, as you heard from him, they made a lot of changes. They were pretty much forced to do this thanks to their new developer environment for their new systems. That is my belief anyway. It was essentially a curveball to developers. And this was all impacted, of course, by COVID, much like everything else. He does say, though, in the long run, he thinks it'll be a better decision.
But maybe that explains some of the things, like...
Now, this part of the video, obviously, he stops. He changes course because he's talking about explaining the lack of performance. Well, why Xbox is losing some comparisons versus the PlayStation 5. And this is why I've mentioned in several videos why it's important for developers to be able to get the performance out of the box to begin with, because without that, those numbers are all useless. So again, he confirmed Sony had a better dev kit with more performance out of the box, less bugs, less crashes. Xbox had not only more bugs, less performance due to that early dev kit and driver issues, it also had crashes, and they didn't even leverage RDNA 2 features like mesh shaders. They didn't leverage velocity architecture. The tools, though, all confirmed, all an issue, all confirmed, all talked about here 5 months ago, and you know what? Feels great. But hey, what about that pesky Xbox Series S? The one holding back the Ouya.
Like the system with the lowest specs does end up dictating a few of the things that you're going to do, because you're going to have to run on that system, right? And it's very easy to say that, well, you just like lower your resolution and texture quality and off you go. Like it sounds good when you say it, and every engine is built in a different way. It depends on, are you making like an engine that's much more about, GPU bound or CPU bound? Like it's a lot more difficult to engineer an old game to make sure it works on everything. But now that we're building the future games, and hey, we know these are the system it has to run, we take that into account from day one, and we can ensure that all platforms have as good of an experience as possible. That's what needs to happen. And we appreciate that there's a lower barrier of entry for a next gen experience, but like the more hardware you have, the more you kind of have to ultimately compromise a little bit when you are like a smaller studio like us, where we just can't spend so much time making sure that, well, all these platforms are like super good. Of course, we need to do that, but there's just a difference in doing that, because it takes a huge amount of resources, not just engineering, but QA. When I talk to our engineers and designers, like it's like the systems are solid, like especially considering like how difficult last year was. And it's only going to get better. I mean, really just like we're really scratching the surface, I have to say.
Now, I will say, first and foremost, I'm not saying that this developer is lying to you when it comes to Series S, but I will say that every single bit of context, every single piece of your developer environment, like he said, your engine, your team, your resources, does matter. Every bit of that matters. But what else matters? Well, technology, correct? Is there more? Yes, there is more. There's a least common denominator. Where is that game going? Is it going to PC? Were the developers using DirectX 12 Ultimate features like we know they were not with Control on the Xbox Series consoles? After all, using something like mesh shaders not only helps with performance, but it also saves with RAM usage, meaning 10 gigabytes of GDDR6 with Xbox Series S could be much more effective while utilizing that technology. Not to mention velocity architecture, things like BRS that do help with GPU performance quite a bit. The Series S also has machine learning capabilities as well. Were all of these things being maxed out by their game? The answer is no, none of them were. Well, that's one part of the story. Perhaps the biggest part of this story is the fact that their next title, that he has already confirmed to be mind-blowingly beautiful, right? It's already running on Series S due to the boundaries they've already predefined, according to so many on Twitter. Well, that's also going to run on PC. And let me ask a lot of guys out there, if you happen to not watch his channel, or you will probably be watching this, but it's still worth asking out loud. Do you think that game, their next gen exclusive, meaning not on last old gen crap, will run on anything less than 16 threads of what is equivalent to a Zen 2 processor? 16 thread CPUs. Do you think maybe Remedy will have a minimum spec, right, to widen that audience, and maybe perhaps they may not even require 16 threads? The answer is yes. The minimum spec, you will be able to use a CPU substantially worse than that, meaning the PC will be the lowest common denominator. The PC should be the one holding back the console versions by this logic, not mine, yours, meaning the guys that are running their mouths about this and not really thinking about any of this stuff. Will the game run on anything less than an SSD? Well, in my opinion, Remedy will allow this title to run on something slower than an M.2, but who knows? Maybe they will go M.2 as a minimum spec, and you will have to have that hard drive or that flash memory installed to play that game. But that is a very, very small audience compared to the general populace of PC gaming. No game right now requires a SSD of that caliber to play. And by that I mean no complete game. But hey, maybe Remedy will have the first. And of course, as we know, the GPU side of things, highly scalable. Of course, they will have to optimize. That's where those GPU saving features that so many are investing in, like the smart image technology, like, let's just call it super resolution for consoles that AMD is working on, BRS, and so many other things that companies are working on, checkerboarding, etc. You get it. They are already doing it today. That's stuff they're already getting a lot out of current machines. So what is the moral of the story? Well, you can believe whatever you want to believe, or you can think beyond your forehead as somebody who bashes on an Xbox constantly for no reason. Just think about these things. Or was it that you just didn't know to think about it because you didn't know about that until this moment? You didn't know about these features and how they actually do impact performance. This is not some kind of secret sauce. AMD are already doing this in tests right now, and it's a very real thing. Again, I would not be talking about it had I not seen the results. But those that watch the channel and keep up with this stuff and again, rock out with me, you guys already have an idea of what I'm talking about. And if you made it this far, you are in the minority. Thank you very much for hanging out this long and just listening to me talk about this crap. And, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe you shouldn't care. But at the end of the day, I do. And I can't help that. I can't help that I don't like it when people just lie about everything and take a lot of the stuff we say here out of context and just run with it. And I guess it's not so much the people that bother me, it's just the fact that it's okay with those people. But hey, I cut this interview up in an effort to save time. Go watch it yourself. I am encouraging you to do so. I'll link that down below. Shout out to IGN for this interview. And while I do wish they were a little bit more tech savvy or at least knowledgeable in this field, they would have asked the developer these questions that I am asking right now about these features and these things that Microsoft have built a box around to extend its life cycle. They still got the interview, and that's really, really cool. So again, check that out. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't hit the like button, show a buddy or two. It really helps, and it's because of you that I'm even able to do this. So subscribe. We're almost up to 100,000 awesome people that watch these videos. So thank you. I'm Dealer. I'm out.